Hi, I'm Blair Hampton. Thank you for joining me for episode 2 of my YouTube series, It's a Book. And today I wanted to talk to you about some of my early influences for storytelling. I grew up an avid reader. I still am. I don't have as much time as I would like to devote to reading, but I do try to stay current on new releases, and also there's tons of books that have been out for decades and sometimes centuries that I have just not been able to read. So there's always something for me to do if I do have enough brain space to devote to that. But I've met a lot of people who love to read but do not care for writing. But I have yet to encounter a writer who does not love to read. My mom is an avid book reader, and she passed down her love of books to my siblings and I. And we used to go to the New York Public Library every week. We would ball out of control with our library cards, and she would also take us to Barnes and Noble at least like once a month, and she would let us pick out however many books as we wanted. And I guess her thinking was, I could be buying them other stuff, but this is a good educational thing for them, and it was a great investment on her part. But one of the series that I loved to read was The Babysitter's Club. Now, for all of you 80s babies, you know that The Babysitter's Club was a series written by Ann M. Martin, and it centered on a business ran by a group of teenagers. I think they were like 12 or 13. It all started with the president's great idea. Her name was Christy, and I guess her mom couldn't find childcare for her little brother, and this idea just took hold in Christy's head to start a babysitter's club. And it was made up of friends around the neighborhood, and they were on call to take care of kids in the neighborhood, and they got paid for it, and I just loved it. The series was pretty simple. It had like a basic structure to it. Chapter 1 was always the introduction, and it kind of clued you into the plot, whatever the problem was. Maybe there was a terrible kid that nobody really wanted to babysit, or a shy kid who didn't play well with others, or was a little introverted. Whatever the juvenile circumstance was, chapter 1 would kind of touch on that, and then also give you an introduction to the character, because that was another thing about the series that was awesome. Each book was narrated by a different member of the Babysitter's Club. Wow. So anyway, chapter 2 would usually be the same. It was one of those chapters I would kind of just like speed read through. After you read about 15 books in a series, you kind of get the gist of what it's about. I don't know who would pick up a series in book 20 and start reading, but for me, I read Babysitter's Club from book number 1, so I didn't really need to know the history of the club or the personality traits for all the members. But again, Anne had a structure to her story, and that's part of the appeal. When you have something that kind of never really deviates from the norm, you instill a sense of familiarity with your readers, which is why a lot of people tend to love children's book series, because they can pick up and just dive right into the story. And then chapters 3 and onward, it was a chapter book. I don't think they were ever more than like 13, 14, 15 chapters maybe, but it would go into the conflict, the resolution, and of course everything was great at the end of the day, except for that time when Marianne broke up with her boyfriend Logan. Yeah, that was kind of a two-parter, if you would. But I love the series. It was an escape, and I was the youngest. I didn't really have any responsibilities as far as taking care of children younger than me. Thank God I was able to just be a kid. But it was just nice to just pretend that I could be someone's babysitter, and I felt like the books prepared me to take care of children until I got to high school and I was a little older and I talked to people who actually had to babysit, and it didn't seem like it was fun. But yeah, it was a great series, and it was books like that that just kind of taught me the importance of storytelling and excitement and keeping a reader hooked, because the problem with a lot of series is they get so dry towards the end. And as I said, like, I think the Babysitters Club had about 200 books. I think I read about 187 before I gave it up. I aged out of them. I realized I didn't really care for other people's kids too much. But it really was one of those things that made me feel like I can do this. Like, I got the plot. I got the structure of a story. Like, I understood the elements that Anne used to make the story so popular and why people kept coming back to it time and time again. Because I mean, I think she only wrote about 60 of the novels, and she had ghostwriters do a majority of the later books in the series. But there was just something about it that was just like so comforting and fun to read. And you know, you learn lessons about friendship and responsibility. And the girls were also going through a lot of things that prepubescent girls go through, like meeting boys and maintaining friends, dealing with bullies, and dealing with, you know, being different, dealing with divorce, different family dynamics. And it was just fun to read. And my favorite part of the series were when they would do like these vacation books. Like the girls would go away, like maybe like on a cruise or go to Disney World. I remember they had mysteries that they had to solve, and it was really cool. So I kind of aspired to provide kids with that experience with my writing. I always wanted a career as as um, remarkable as Anne and Martin's. I think remarkable is just, you know, an understatement. But yeah, she was a huge part of my childhood. I used to share books with my sister, trade them with friends at school. You always get your book back, but, you know, it was just kind of nice to have that escape. Thanks.